talking about?
Oddly awesome.
We have a special graffiti squad.
Oddly awesome to be here.
What did you last night? We did two whole cars. It was me, Dave, and me, P, right? And the first car, in small letters, it said, Oddly awesome.
Greetings from the East Bay. I'm Francis, your host of the Oddly Awesome Art and Culture podcast. This is the inaugural episode, the pilot, Volume 1, Issue 1, X-Men number 1, Jim Lee cover, if you will. So a bit about me and my background. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. I grew up in the East Bay, Union City to be exact. I graduated from San Jose State University with a degree in advertising and an academic focus in art history. Growing up, I've always been a collector, action figures and comic books being the main hobby back then. I damn near went to most of the art show openings in small gallery spaces across the Bay Area, San Francisco and Oakland, starting around 2006. White Walls Gallery, Gallery 1988, Upper Playground, 5024 SF Gallery, First Fridays in Oakland too.
When we all came together and created And Them as a product, like, you know, we wouldn't let any whack type of shit come in.
Like in December, a lot of people dug Chintato's work, you know, Turtle Wayne, like Stitch Mine, all those guys.
Fast forward a couple years, I co-founded an art agency called And Them Collective that provided dozens of artists an outlet to show their work in San Francisco and around the Bay Area in the early 2010s. What we were able to achieve was putting together multiple successful group art shows. We leveraged promotional strategies and we ran social media campaigns. More importantly, we were able to ignite a spark in the art scene and help bolster artists and help them find their confidence and identities at that time.
Oddly awesome.
Fast forward a couple years later, I had the opportunity of curating art for a short time in a boutique in downtown Oakland called Massive. Hella massive. Massive East Bay. Massive was ran by my homies, Kev and Zay. Shout out to my brothers Kev and Zay. Kev was always an early believer in me. He was an early adopter in my passion, and he helped me navigate through the art realm. So if you can imagine this, Massive was a hybrid boutique. It offered different elements. It had a streetwear component, a barbershop component, and also a gallery component. This was all things Bay Area.
Oddly awesome.
Throughout my time curating for both And Them and Massive, on the side I was interning at the historic Chinese Historical Society Museum in Chinatown, San Francisco. It was interesting interning for the CHSA Museum because it was predominantly Chinese and I wasn't. I learned a lot about the Bay Area, I learned a lot about Chinese culture, and I learned a lot about myself. Then, around 2014, life happened and I had to bow out of my time as a curator.
Oddly awesome.
Oddly Awesome is a passion project. I always wanted to find a way to exert some creativity, share stories, and a bit of myself as well. In the age of coronavirus, there have been some trends that have been deemed cliché. Dalgona coffee, the Travis Scott meal from McDonald's, and supposedly podcast. With podcast, I disagree about its trendiness. Podcast is an amazing medium to share ideas and find inspirations, to start conversations. I felt that Oddly Awesome would be best as a podcast. I found myself posting old photos from my time as a curator and showing off my art collection, but I wanted to do more. Personally, I'm a collector by nature. As a collector of objects inspired by graffiti and design, I've compiled a ton of art books, art sketches, designer toys, signed ephemera over the years. Through this podcast, I want to discuss various topics and stories from this dynamic world. I want to discuss the stories that have inspired me personally. I also want to dissect the thinkers and the doers who have moved the needle forward. I believe I found a way to stay inspired by the books, the films, the objects which are inspired by art and design, and it's through Oddly Awesome.
Oddly awesome.
Sayonara.